I still remember the exact moment it started. It was a Tuesday morning, one of those calm, ordinary days where the sun peeked gently through the blinds and the sound of lawnmowers hummed faintly across the neighborhood. My wife, Sarah, had gone to work early, and I was sipping my coffee at the kitchen table when I noticed an envelope tucked between the grocery ads and pizza coupons. It wasn't the usual mail. The envelope was stark, white, and stiff. Across the front, bold black letters shouted, "Notice of Delinquent Assessment." I frowned, sliding my finger across the seal. Inside, a single sheet of paper rattled my peace. It claimed I owed $150 in unpaid HOA dues. That didn't make sense. We'd lived in this house for 6 years, and I always paid on time, sometimes early. I read it again, thinking maybe I missed something. No, it was clear. According to them, I hadn't paid last quarter's dues, and now they were adding late fees. The bottom of the page warned that failure to pay could result in legal action, liens, and even foreclosure. My heart sank. Over $150? For real? When Sarah got home that evening, I showed her the letter. She brushed back her brown hair and sighed. "This has to be a mistake. Didn't you pay online last time?" "Yeah," I said, rummaging through the folder where I kept printed receipts. "I found it. Confirmation of payment. Time-stamped, processed, and clear as day. See? Paid in full, March 3rd. She looked at me with a mix of relief and worry. "Okay, so we just send them a copy of this, right? That should fix it." That's what I thought too, but I had no idea how wrong I was. The next morning, I emailed the HOA office with the receipt attached. Their response came hours later, cold and dismissive. "Our records show no payment was received. If you believe this is an error, you may attend the next board meeting." That's when I realized something. This wasn't going to be simple. I started noticing little things. The HOA president, Marjorie, a woman in her late 50s with short blonde hair and a sharp wardrobe, had never liked me much. I wasn't the type to attend the monthly meetings or volunteer for committees. I just paid my dues and minded my business. Maybe she saw me as uninvolved or uncooperative. But now it felt personal. That weekend, while I was trimming hedges, my neighbor Daniel walked over. "Hey, you get one of those letters too?" he asked, his baseball cap shading his eyes. "Yeah," I muttered. "Says I didn't pay $150. Total nonsense." Daniel sighed. "Same thing happened to me last year. Took me 3 months to clear it up. They act like you're guilty until proven innocent." That was the first time I realized this wasn't just me. This was bigger. Still, I thought the truth would win out. I had proof. I had receipts. But what I didn't know was that this piece of paper, this tiny $150 dispute, was about to unravel my whole sense of security. And worse, it was about to put my home at risk. The community center smelled faintly of coffee and carpet cleaner. Folding chairs lined up in neat rows with a long table at the front where the HOA board sat like a panel of judges. I took a seat near the back, clutching my folder with the receipt inside. Sarah squeezed my hand. "It's going to be fine. Just explain. Show them the proof." The meeting started with small talk about landscaping contracts and pool repairs. My nerves tightened with every minute. Finally, Marjorie cleared her throat. "Next on the agenda, delinquent dues." She looked straight at me. "Mr. Thompson, please stand." I rose, feeling every pair of eyes swing my way. "I paid. I have the receipt right here." I held up the paper. "It cleared on March 3rd. This is a mistake." Marjorie adjusted her glasses, her lips pursed. "Our records show no payment was received. If you believe this is an error, you may attend the next board meeting." "No," I said firmly. "This is your error." The murmurs in the room grew louder. A board member, Mr. Carson, chimed in. "We'll need to verify with the bank." "That's fine," I replied. "I'll even call them right now." But Marjorie raised her hand, silencing me. "That won't be necessary. For now, the late fees will remain. Failure to pay will escalate the matter." Sarah gasped. "Escalate? He has proof right there." I could feel the heat rising in my chest. "You can't just ignore this." Marjorie's smile was thin, cold. "Sir, please take your seat." And that was that. My voice, my proof, it didn't matter. They weren't listening. Afterwards, neighbors approached me in hushed tones. Some whispered sympathy, others avoided eye contact. Daniel muttered, "Told you, they always win." But I wasn't about to roll over. That night, I stayed up late, combing through bank statements, printing every piece of evidence I could find. I thought if I piled the facts high enough, they'd have no choice but to listen. But the next letter that arrived in my mailbox wasn't an apology. It was a notice of lien for $150 plus fees. That's when the anger turned into fear. Because a lien meant one thing: they weren't just after money, they were coming after my house. I barely slept after that letter. Every creak of the house at night made me wonder, could we really lose this place over $150? Sarah tried to stay calm, but I could see the stress wearing on her. She'd pace in the kitchen, rubbing her temples. "This is insane. We worked too hard for this house. They can't take it." But legally they could. That's the terrifying part most people don't know. HOA boards can slap liens on properties and, if unpaid, force them into foreclosure, even for tiny amounts. I decided to fight harder. I called the HOA office, the bank, even a lawyer friend from college. Each conversation left me more tangled in bureaucracy. The bank confirmed the payment cleared, but the HOA kept saying their system never logged it. "You'll have to resolve this with the board," the office clerk repeated like a broken record. Meanwhile, fees stacked higher. $150 became $350, then $600. I tried to talk to neighbors, hoping to rally support. Daniel shook his head. "Man, I'd love to help, but last time I spoke up, they cited me for a fence violation. Cost me $500 to fix." Another neighbor whispered, "Marjorie doesn't like being challenged. Careful, or she'll make it worse." It felt like living under a shadow government where one person's grudge could become a community's law. One night, Sarah broke down. We were sitting on the porch, the cicadas buzzing in the warm air. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "What if they win? What if we actually lose everything?" I hugged her, but inside, I was crumbling too. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, a certified letter arrived. Notice of auction. They were scheduling my home for public sale. The day I held that certified letter in my hands, my stomach sank as if I'd swallowed a stone. Notice of auction. The words blurred for a second as I read them again and again, hoping I was misunderstanding. But no, it was clear as daylight, thing keeping her grounded. "This isn't happening," she whispered. "It can't be real." But it was. I called my lawyer friend Patrick. He agreed to meet me that evening. His office was cramped, stacks of files leaning against every wall. He looked exhausted before I even sat down. "So, here's the deal," Patrick said, rubbing his temples. "HOAs have a lot more power than people think. They can absolutely file liens and force auctions. But if you've got proof you paid, that changes things." "I do," I said quickly, handing him the folder stuffed with receipts, bank statements, and printed emails. "Right here. Every document, every timestamp." Patrick flipped through the papers, nodding. "This is good, really good. But," he paused, "HOAs bank on people giving up. They drag it out until the legal costs outweigh the fight. Most folks just pay to make it go away." I clenched my fists. "Not me. I'm not letting them steal my house." Sarah's voice cracked from the corner of the office. "But what if it's too late? The auction date is set." Patrick gave a sympathetic shrug. We can file an injunction to stop the sale, but it'll cost, and you'll need to prove the HOA acted negligently." That night, I spread every paper across our dining table like I was piecing together a crime scene. Emails with timestamps, bank confirmations, even screenshots of the payment portal. But something didn't add up. One email from the HOA office caught my eye. The date was strange, sent just days after my payment cleared, yet it claimed no payment had been received. Attached was a screenshot of their system. My name, blank. My account, marked delinquent. Sarah leaned over my shoulder. They erased it, she whispered. Someone deleted the record. The realization hit like ice water. This wasn't a clerical error. This was deliberate. I could almost hear Marjorie's smug voice. "Our records show no such payment." I knew then I wasn't just fighting incompetence. I was fighting corruption. And the worst part, if I didn't stop them, the gavel would fall and strangers would soon be walking through my front door bidding on the life Sarah and I had built. But I wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. Because buried in that paper trail, I was certain, lay the key to exposing them. The morning of the auction felt surreal. I woke before dawn, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the house that might not be ours for much longer. Every corner of it suddenly felt fragile, the creak of the hallway floor, the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen, even the framed photos of our wedding on the wall. Sarah sat at the table, her eyes red from crying all night. What if we don't stop it? What if today is the last day in this house? I didn't have an answer. We drove downtown to the county courthouse where the auction was being held. The steps were crowded with strangers, investors, bargain hunters, people clutching checkbooks and clipboards. To them it was just another sale. To me, it was the end of everything. Patrick met us outside, a stack of papers tucked under his arm. He said, "I filed the injunction, but the judge hasn't ruled yet. We need to stall." Inside, the auctioneer stood tall at the podium, his voice booming through the courthouse rotunda. One by one, properties were announced and sold off like cattle. My chest tightened as our address drew closer. I felt Sarah squeeze my hand. Her fingers trembled. And next, lot number 47, property located at 1625 Oak Ridge Drive. Our house. I shot to my feet. "Objection!" My voice cracked, echoing across the marble hall. "This sale is illegal. I paid the dues. I have proof." The auctioneer frowned, clearly annoyed. "Sir, if you have an objection, take it up with the HOA board." Marjorie was there, of course, sitting smugly near the front, her pearl necklace gleaming under the fluorescent lights. She tilted her head, lips curved in a sly smile. Patrick stepped forward, holding up the papers. "We have evidence the HOA deleted records of payment. My client is filing an injunction. Until then, the auction proceeds." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some buyers whispered to each other, unsure if they should bid. Others looked eager, smelling blood in the water. Sarah whispered desperately, "Do something!" And then, like fate, the courtroom doors swung open. A clerk rushed in, waving a folder. "Order from Judge Ramirez," he called out. The auctioneer paused, taking the folder. He scanned it, then cleared his throat. "Lot number 47, property located at 1625 Oak Ridge Drive, is hereby removed from auction pending further investigation." The room erupted in murmurs. I exhaled so hard my knees almost gave out. Sarah sobbed into my chest, relief flooding her face. But as we walked out, past Marjorie's burning glare, I knew this wasn't over. We had stopped the auction, for now, But the real fight, the one that would expose everything, was only beginning. The weeks that followed were a blur of hearings, paperwork, and sleepless nights. Patrick helped us file a formal complaint, armed with our stack of evidence. Each piece painted the same picture: payments received, then mysteriously erased from HOA records. We subpoenaed the HOA's internal emails. That's when the truth finally cracked open. One message, sent from Marjorie to the HOA treasurer, made my jaw drop. If we push the Thompsons' delinquency, we can justify enforcement. Others will follow in line. It wasn't about money. It was about control. They wanted an example, someone to scare the neighborhood into obedience, and we were the chosen target. The hearing was tense. I stood before the judge, voice shaking but steady enough to carry. "Your Honor, this wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. They deleted my payment to justify punishing me, and they nearly stole my home over $150. Marjorie squirmed in her chair, her lawyer trying to spin excuses, but the emails spoke louder than any defense. When the ruling came, it felt like a dam breaking. The judge declared the lien null and void, the fees erased, and the HOA ordered to compensate us for legal expenses. Sarah burst into tears, gripping my arm. Relief, raw and overwhelming, poured through me. As we walked out the courthouse, reporters swarmed asking for comments. I kept it simple. No one should lose their home over a clerical error or worse, someone's power trip. HOAs need accountability. Back home, I stood on the porch, looking at the house with fresh eyes. The siding, the roof, the flowers Sarah had planted. It wasn't just wood and paint. It was ours, and we had fought to keep it. But I also knew something else. This story wasn't unique. Daniel, my neighbor, was right. Countless families had faced the same nightmare, most without the means to fight back. That night, Sarah and I sat on the porch swing, the cool breeze brushing past us. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "We almost lost everything." "Yeah," I said quietly, "but we didn't." The stars glittered above us, steady and calm, as if the universe itself was finally exhaling with us. And though we'd won, I couldn't help but think about all the others still trapped in the machine of HOA rules. Families who couldn't afford lawyers. Families who just gave up. Maybe one day, things will change. But until then, I had my house, my family, and my proof that sometimes, just sometimes, the little guy can fight back and win.